Assalamu alaikum, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. We have talked about Ramadan fasting the whole day, but now there are new concepts being recognized about the non-Ramadan fasting. There are two aspects to that. One is, as highlighted since morning, there are many people who fast outside of Ramadan, like Shawwal and like Rajab and Shaban. We tried to construct the data analysis, but we don't have enough data to construe about that. The second part is, nowadays, there is a lot of interest going about fasting per se. So religions, cultures, and faiths have prescribed fasting, and we Muslims, especially going through Ramadan, focus, it appears, more on the spiritual aspects of it. And the discussion since morning about Ramadan fasting was how to prevent problems and complications. So I will touch upon what is fasting. So fasting is deeply rooted in the human as well as animal evolution. It has existed in different forms in human culture and medical rites. And it is a pillar of component of many religions as well, which focuses not only on the spiritual and the faithful concept, but definitely we all believe has got implications for the physical health as well. In an evolutionary process, there is a physiologic shift during fasting which elicits cellular survival responses which have got a positive impact on health. So this is a training and discipline which is given to us by our faith so that we can pursue it and conveniently follow it up later on as well. From an evolutionary perspective, fasting physiology allows for prolonged periods of activity without eating. But I don't know how many of us are even surviving. We just discussed, can I wait 30 minutes for oral semaglutide before breaking my fast? So there are concerns about it which we have to learn through. We know that 3 meals per day started with industrialization. The hunter-gatherers were waiting till they get a hunter and then they started. Then farming and agriculture again, they were busy, but the industrialization has led to the new concept of 3 meals per day plus snacks in between. As early humans evolved, food supplies were alternately abundant and scarce. So they had to learn during their physiology of living on this earth. And we evolved in a sync with the natural day-night cycle. So there was no concept of eating during the night. It was eating during the day, and then with the sunset, it used to close and you used to sleep. So our physiology has been innately engaged in this activity and what we call every day nowadays for all the newer metabolic problems, the basic most important thing to consider changing is the lifestyle. So we are learning a lot about the fasting. It has become a human choice as part of religious and cultural practice, but nowadays we see more and more people taking it as a choice to achieve health, fitness, and longevity goals. So what is intermittent fasting? In a way, it's not very different which we do with Ramadan fasting, although it's not so dry, you are allowed to drink water, etc. But it is just a fasting pattern as opposed to many of the other concepts are coming about. I'm doing this diet, keto diet, South Beach diet, Mediterranean diet, which is to eat certain things and not to eat. But intermittent fasting is an eating pattern which is very much unique in terms of replicating the physiology the way the human evolution has taken place. Eating pattern in which individuals go for extended period of time, 16 to 18 hours with little or no energy intake. It depends on the concept labeled as metabolic switch, which involves a change from dependence on the glucose derived from the liver during the typical dieting to ketones derived from the adipose tissue. And this metabolic switch can improve glucose regulation and reduce inflammation. And it also increases autophagy, which removes damaged molecules to prevent against the further metabolic stress and reduce the oxidative stress. And we have seen from the various studies which have been done that it can lead to weight loss and other health benefits. The physiology of fasting is, as we can see from the here, that within 16 hours or so, you can see here, as the hours come here, after 16 hours, the glycogen stores are depleting, gluconeogenesis starts, and in the third phase, the ketone bodies are there. So this shift from glucose to ketone as a main fuel occurs in the third stage of fasting, and it has got numerous effects on the main drivers of the metabolic switch, which are not easy to be described here, but broadly we understand it has got a low insulin and glucagon ratio, low substrate availability, and the cellular changes occur which has got a high NAD versus NADH ratio, high AMP and ATP ratio, and ketogenesis. So this leads to fasting by minimizing anabolic processes, favoring maintenance and repair systems, enhancing stress resistance, and recycling the damaged molecules. So it's a form of rejuvenation which has been taken place since that started. As you can see here, broadly seen, that there's various responses happening place, that stress response leads to the brain-derived neurotropic factor. There is a decrease in the sympathetic nervous system drive, inflammation in the gut, lipolysis and fatty acids, decrease in the inflammation, increased membrane stability, and energy and cytoplasmic integrity is changing. Does the meal timing differ? So that's important. Again, as I mentioned, the sleep-wake cycle was that you start eating in the morning and you finish in the evening. But we see many of the people who are doing intermittent fasting, again because of our lifestyle currently, are unable to do it in the correct way, because they will be starting in the afternoon and eating till late evening or maybe before they go to sleep, which again is against the circadian rhythm in which our physiology is working. But still it has been seen that with intermittent fasting and the time-restricted eating, if it is done in the early time, we are able to see a decrease in the insulin resistance and insulin sensitivity improves. The potential health benefits which have been looked into and found from the various studies, number one is weight loss, because repetitive fasting induces organism to shift their metabolic phase, which improves metabolic condition and extends health expectancy. At the same time, it regenerates the mitochondrial function, which leads to longevity, which has been shown in the animal studies, but we don't have concrete data because there are no long-term studies more than 1 or 2 years about the fasting available. As we see a lower risk of type 2 diabetes, it has been discussed as a potential benefit for diabetes prevention. I think the next talk could be talking about that, and the insulin resistance. It also, because of the decrease in the blood pressure during the prolonged fasting time of 16 hours or 18 hours, with improvement in the heart rate, decrease in the cholesterol and triglyceride, it will improve the cardiovascular health without taking any medications additional to that. It has been shown to improve the brain health in terms of intermittent fasting reducing the neurological disorders risk like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and stroke. And it is the only mechanism shown other than rapamycin which may increase the growth of new nerves as well. There are studies in the animals which have shown that it reduces the risk of cancer as well, but there is data available from mostly animal but some of the human studies as well, that the patients taking chemotherapy, when they are asked to fast and they fast, the response to the chemotherapy is better and the side effects of the chemotherapy is better. So our body develops stress resistance patterns and generates some of the molecules which we are still unable to find especially, but it does have improvement effect for the health overall. The changes to the function of cells, genes and hormones, the hormone levels change. We talked about the insulin and glucagon. The human growth hormone level It may increase, which promotes the fat burning, a muscle gain, and provides other benefits. The blood insulin levels drop, which leads to fat burning, the cellular repair, and gene expression. Many of the non-communicable diseases or the chronic disease model, as we see, we talk about the oxidative stress and inflammation. Everything is related to oxidative stress and inflammation, but what we are giving them as a treatment is nothing to do with that part. We are not prescribing aspirin to everybody. We are not giving how to reduce the oxidative stress. So we are focusing on the other matters of treatment pattern, which is looking at the other aspect rather than the primary focus. So intermittent fasting may help enhance the body resistance to oxidative stress. At the same time, the autophagy, which comes after continued fasting, intermittent, either alternate day fasting or 16 8-hour fasting, this autophagy, during this autophagy, cells break down and metabolize dysfunctional and broken proteins. They can build up over time. So it is a way of detoxifying and regenerating the cellular molecules, especially mitochondrial mechanisms, which are degrading as times. So it provides protection against various conditions such as cancer and Alzheimer's disease. Finally, a 2023 review found that the physiological changes that occur during intermittent fasting may help to delay the onset of Alzheimer's disease. And as I said, there are various animal studies, especially mice, rat, and some of the monkeys one, which led to a lifespan increase by 13%. So in conclusion, despite the evidence for the health benefits of intermittent fasting, majority of those fasting among us for most of the period of Ramadan, which is about 30 days, it's not a few days. But many of them, unless they are on the medications, as Dr. Muhammad Hassan mentioned, if you add an insulin, if you add an SGLT2 inhibitor, you will lose weight, you will do this, you will do that. But alone, it doesn't make any difference. And I think the reason is we don't fast, we feast. So I was going to give the talk, the title change, should we start fasting or should we stop overeating? So that's an important message. A diet of 3 meals with snacks every day is so ingrained in our culture, as it has been religiously prescribed that we should eat 3 meals per day. So in Ramadan or while fasting, if you're eating 2 meals, you make it 3 by doubling your meal at iftar. And we as doctors and diabetes experts, we do the same for the medications. We double the dose at iftar because we are planned to eat double at that time. So we don't get the benefit which is designed for that. It is so ingrained in our cultures that the eating pattern will rarely be contemplated by patients and doctors, and the abundance of food and extensive marketing are major hurdles to that. Intermittent fasting regimen will make people experience hunger, irritability, and a reduced ability in the beginning, but we all see in Ramadan as well, the first week is bad. In the second, third, and fourth week, you start acclimatizing, but then the feasting time in iftar every day, and then the Eid holidays coming up, it entirely changes the situation. So most physicians are not trained to prescribe specific intermittent fasting interventions, and they can advise patients to gradually, over a period of several months, to start this practice to reduce the time window for eating, during which they consume food each day with the goal of fasting at the end for 16 to 18 hours per day. Alternatively, the other way which is practicable and which is done again from the cultural and religious perspective, Monday and Thursday fasting, it is 5 to 2, which leads to 900 to 1000 calorie consumed 1 day per week for the first month, then 2 days per week for the second month, and so on. So there are implications to that which will be helpful for us in terms of the longevity and health benefits from there. Thank you very much.